He told you not to talk to me or Vaush? Is that, I think I heard him say that.
Yes.
Oh, do you have any strong feelings about Andrew Tate? Oh, you're a pro-Tater and you're embarrassed about it. Be honest. What's your opinion on him? You're an incel?
That I'm involuntary celibate?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm getting you're blackpilling me right now. Abba in chat right now is disagreeing with me, and I didn't know this.
Is that Abba from Abba and Preach?
Yeah, he's a loser, okay? Abba in chat is saying that Destiny's completely wrong, but I actually specifically asked Abba, and this was funny to me, okay? I specifically asked you, Abba, on stream one day. I said,
I'm mainly here because I was told not to talk to you, so I couldn't help myself. But here we are. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for chatting. So I've had a lot of, I've been doing a lot of like Andrew Tate stuff recently, so I haven't gotten a chance to catch up on, you had a big fight with a bunch of lefty internet people and my best friend, good friend of the stream, FD Signifier.
Are you being sarcastic? Is he really a friend?
Why, is that a problem if he's a friend? Why can't he not be a friend?
Oh no, it's not a problem. It's just based on how he's spoken about you to me, it seems as if you are most definitely not friends.
Is he talking shit on my back? Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily shit, but he's quite wary, skeptical of you, and ultimately says that you're going to exploit me as a black woman, and that you and Vaush sort of content farm from black females or women, and that I should be warned because it's not going to end well for me.
Kind of.
So.
To be clear, I would never exploit you because of your race, but I do exploit women, so I just want to get that out of the way.
Oh, I mean, I don't mind if you exploit me because I'm a woman or because I'm black. It's fine.
Okay, well, both at the same time are just too edgy for me. No, okay.
The mantra of my life, so it's fine.
Gotcha. I'm here. My brain is working. I got all my stuff set up. Okay. Where to start? A lot of people accuse me of that just because I cover a lot of issues on stream, and I can be kind of blunt sometimes, and people get really mad because they expect you to tiptoe a lot around certain issues, and I don't. But like, I think if anybody's watched like a great deal of my content, I think even for FD Signifier, like he knows I'm not racist. I don't farm black people or farm black women. I obviously, as content creators, we quote unquote farm any issue that we talk about. Some of those issues are gonna be really important. Some of them are gonna be really goofy. That's just the reality of the situation. Yeah, okay, boom, boom. You got into a big fight though recently with that side of the internet. Why, how, what happened? What do you think happened?
I think I made a video which touched a few nerves. I don't think it was a terribly good video. It was just a video of just my thoughts. I was just feeling quite lonely and in my feelings on Christmas Day. So I decided to make this video about why I think the left can do better, specifically the online left, as I sort of see it, mainly in the sphere of video essays. I don't know too much about sort of the left debate sphere, except for sort of Xander Hall, Vaush, those sorts of individuals.
Yeah.
But it sort of applied. So I made this video, and FD then responded to it with 3 of his friends, and the response was, it wasn't a terribly good response either, to be fair, but it's most definitely because he's got all the following and sort of the reputation of being very hardcore leftist.
Yeah.
It didn't go down well for me, for my channel, and...
What do you mean by that? It didn't go down well? Were people like harassing you or?
Yes, yeah, I was getting harassed, getting called a transphobe, anti-black, people sort of psychoanalyzing my life, my personal life, about why I am the way that I am, self-hating, hating of black people and progress, and basically Candace Owens, right-winger, all of that good stuff. And yeah, just losing subscribers. My channel, lots of my videos were demonetized all of a sudden. Then obviously all the other smaller lefty streamers started picking up on the story and started making videos, just adding fuel to the fire. So it sort of got a bit out of hand, at least on my end, especially because firstly, FD didn't try to speak to me beforehand. He'd actually reached out to me a year ago, and I said, yes, I'd love to speak with you, be on your channel, whatever. Then he just ghosted me. until this point, really made the video. And I tried to, I reached out to him, tried to speak with him. He just wasn't, I felt like sort of a very needy girlfriend whose boyfriend was just not interested. So yeah, finally we got to speaking, but it was a very difficult scenic route to actually speaking. And
Gotcha.
yeah.
I hate that I've been doing so much other stuff. I didn't get to watch your conversation with him yet. Because normally I'd give you comments on it. How long was that conversation? I want to say somebody linked to me. I opened it. Was it like a 3-hour talk?
Yeah, about 2.5 hours, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. How do you feel like, I guess, I'm trying to think. There seems to be a pattern. Right now, well, actually, first of all, I don't even know your political position, especially because you're British. Where do you align politically? Like, where would you say you align yourself politically?
I don't really. That's why I just say I'm apolitical. I know this is very contentious, and according to some, there's no such thing. You can't be. But my opinions change basically weekly at this point, so I don't really align to anything concretely.
What's like a topic that you talk about right now a lot? Like, what's something that you're dealing with a lot right now?
Mainly critiquing the left, just the online left. So I guess I'm more centrist in that sense.
And what do you feel like about the online left? Like, what is it about the online left that bothers you right now?
I think the lack of agency, the lack of a willingness to be one's own agent, the lack of true individuality, the sort of very tribalistic nature of the left. It's sort of turned in on itself, and it's very difficult to connect with people. It's very difficult for me as sort of somebody who's a devout individualist to try to speak to people who just will not engage at all and believe themselves to know me better than I know myself. And the more I try to explain, the more entrenched their self-convictions become. I think that's the main thing, and I find that primarily to be a feature of the contemporary online left.
Sure. I think I largely would agree in theory. Can we center this around one particular issue? So it might be race, it might be sex or gender. Like, what's like an issue that you feel?
Okay, race.
Yeah.
Race.
Okay.
Race.
So do you feel like people ascribe too much to you or too much to certain racial struggles that are like too overly broad, or do you feel like they fixate on them too much? Or yeah, what's your issue with how, I guess, broadly online, how the online left deals with race?
Yes, I think all of that. I think there's too much of a fixation on race, especially the idea of institutionalized race and or racism, and this being an explanation for all the ills and all the wrongs within your life. It sort of takes away any agency that you could have over controlling your fate or your destiny, say. So, for instance, when I was speaking to FD, one of the explanations for, I explained to him how I'd been sort of lost about nearly 90% of my income, and just since his video and all the ramifications of that. And he said, well, that's not my problem, and based on our email correspondence, the inference would be that, oh, this is something that happens to, you know, Black women, that this is an institutional thing, that this is about the algorithm, what have you, like all sort of responsibility.
Wait, and this was the demonetization that happened after his fans, I guess, presumably started mass reporting your videos, or?
Yeah, sort of. I purposely didn't blame him for this at all. I know people are just going to be people on YouTube and Twitter and what have you. So it's not specifically his fault. But in terms of, I think, the irresponsibility on his part in sort of knowing sort of his tribe and what they do and the things that they were saying.
Yeah.
I think that there was a bit of irresponsibility on that part. But ultimately, because of the kind of politics that he's subsumed in,
he has no responsibility for anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I find that very, very difficult to connect with in any way. You can't communicate with somebody who just isn't willing to be as somebody. So yeah.
And okay. I should have thought of something. We probably agree on almost everything, based on how you talk, but we might disagree like in the weeds on some issues. I feel like people on the left have they're very I hate that I'm saying this. Wait, how old are you? Do you mind me asking?
26.
Okay, I'm 34. There's a lot of complaints that I'm going to make today about people on the left that were made 6 years ago. I don't think they were really valid 6 years ago, but I think they're definitely valid today. I feel like people on the left are hyper intolerant. I think that tolerance and intolerance masquerade sometimes as different things because we pretend that we're more tolerant than they actually are. So for instance, when I'm dealing with a lot of people on the left, they'll say things like, well, we're very tolerant. Look at how diverse our group is. And the diversity will be they've got black people, they've got white people, they've got brown people, they've got gay people, they've got straight people, they've got trans people. Like, look at how diverse we are. Our group of people is super diverse. But when it comes to ideology, they are lockstep on every single issue, period. And if there is the tiniest of diversion, that person will be weeded out, excised, and destroyed. There is no room for disagreement across a broad number of topics. And so, yeah, you end up in this weird area where like the very tolerant, very diverse group on the outside, or they are diverse. I mean, it's, in some ways, they're diverse in things where the diversity of opinion doesn't matter because nobody actually cares, right? Like, I don't care. I can't even think of an example right now, but like, yeah, it's diversity on things that they don't really care about. But when it comes to things like capitalism is evil, or socialized healthcare is the only way to go, or the minimum wage in the United States needs to be, $25 an hour, like all of these positions, you're like lockstep. And or systemic racism and white supremacy and colonialism are the reasons for every single issue that black people face in the United States. These are things you have to be, or in the world, you have to be lockstep on. And it creates this really weird world online where you've got like this really friendly, bubbly, happy group of people that say they're super tolerant and nice, where when you disagree with them a little bit, because not only are they lockstep in their ideology, they also have all of the institutional power, funny enough, how that works, online behind them, that they can bring the hammer down on you and destroy you. And to speak back against any of it hurts a lot if you're a decent human being, because it's not like when you fight conservatives. For me, like, conservatives will call me a or they'll call me like a cock or a loser or whatever. It's like, I don't care, you're fucking conservative. But when people call me like racist or transphobic or like hateful in that way, it's like, I'm not that. But they bring those words down on you, and then they bring like the whole weight of the machine down on you, and you're like, yeah, it's a really, really difficult thing to deal with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very different thing. Like what you said about the difference between sort of conservatives and what they do. Like I had incels, like sort of, the typical like sort of incel things, calling me like all these racist names and everything. And it really didn't like it didn't bother me like really at all, like in substance, because I sort of know where it's coming from, and it's sort of from people who are like, we're shit people, we hate everyone,
sure. Or like, we're so different. It's like, of course you hate me. Like, you should hate me. Like, I understand, Yeah.
Exactly. And it's different when it's coming from sort of a group of people where it's very much sort of this moral sanctimony and this, we are the good people and we're on the side of good, and we just will not listen to you at all because you're inherently a terrible person because you don't agree with us on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What do you find that you are, so you had this whole thing with FD Signifier. He told you not to talk to me or Vaush? Is that, I think I heard him say that?
Yes. Yeah. I'm not sure about you or why not to talk to you, but I mean, with Vaush, I think it probably has to do with, because I'm South African.
Okay.
And I know there was this whole Professor Flowers thing about the white genocide and all of that, and that typical thing about race and all of that. So I think he probably didn't want me to talk to Vaush because of that, because that is sort of a topic I'm quite interested in. But I'm not sure why. I think at the moment, based on his latest video essay, you're sort of a PDF file. So, yeah.
Pedophile? Is that what he called me?
Yes.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need somebody to timestamp.
Timestamp?
Whatever. Yeah, that. It was interesting. Very, very interesting. But
damn. Okay. Well, normally people don't like me because I'm racist or sexist, but that's cool. There's always new lore dropping, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you is YouTube like your full-time job, or are you doing other work right now, or?
YouTube for now. It has been, at least, yeah, for the time
I
being.
have been
Fingers
reformed.
crossed. So, yes.
How did you get involved in YouTube stuff?
Well, I was working in a grocery store and I was just very bored, very disenchanted, sort of hated the world. And this just was something to do. So YouTube was sort of just personal thing that I started doing. Just gave me incentive to save for equipment and all that good old jazz. And yeah, so I just got into it through that. Started watching video essays, thought I can do that. So started doing that, and here we are.
What was your like in terms of content that you consumed online? Who were like some of your favorite content creators?
Some of my favorites.
Like people you saw and you're like, these guys are really cool. Like I want to be able to do like video essays or conversations like these guys. Like was there anybody that you watched or looked up to or anything?
I wouldn't say look up to. I don't really have role models. That sounds a bit weird, but no, I think in terms of style and learning from sort of how like the editing techniques and the things people spoke about, I think just all your typical people. I watched some FD Signifier. Who else did I watch?
I guess something I'd ask is like the Professor Flowers person was brought up. Do you have any? Have you ever watched her content? Do you have any feelings about her?
Yes, I actually. Here's the thing. I look at everything quite analytically. I don't really look at things as in, do I agree with them or not? I try to sort of look at where a person is coming from. And just based on that, I like Professor Flowers. I don't agree with her or them on anything really, but I can see the passion, I can see the interest, I can see the real, I think the sense of trying to do good and do better in the world for causes that they find important, and I find that quite admirable. So yeah, I think I have quite a soft spot for Professor Flowers. I don't think that they are a white genocider, but yeah, I think that their views are definitely sort of off the beaten track when it comes to leftist politics.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
yeah. I mean, just interesting, just analytically, very interesting person. Yeah.
Have you tried to set up, or do you want to? Have you tried to talk to Vaush at all? Have you reached out to him?
I've tweeted at Vaush, but I'm not sure as of yet. I mean, I'd be happy to speak to him anytime. Yeah, he's got a great smile. So, yeah. I mean, that's the important thing.
True. Okay. Damn, I should have thought of something to chat about. Honestly, I think we both kind of get the same thing where both of our audiences are like, oh, you guys should talk, but we don't really have... most of my arguments, or most of my conversations stem from like disagreements or arguments.
Exactly, yes. And I find that I mean, I watch you regularly. And so a lot of my opinions are actually informed by you and your conversations. So I did not know how this was going to pan out because, yeah.
What do you think is some opinions that you get like the biggest pushback on from left-leaning people? You get in the most trouble for?
Transgender issues. Not that I speak a lot about it, because
Oof. Well, you're English, so I know you hate trans people. Yeah, hit me up. What do you think are your controversial takes around trans issues? I'm curious.
I mean, I personally don't think I have any. My opinions are really not that controversial. I just think that. Well, I think. Oh, what's the last? Yeah, I don't think that children should be on puberty blockers and should be able to medically transition. I think that especially now we're living in an age where exploring your sexuality in far more ways than usual is encouraged and is everywhere, and people are socialized on social media, and to give children that kind of autonomy is just not the direction that anybody wants to go in, and that is the extent of my opinion. I think just everything in moderation, basically, especially when you don't have all the knowledge or consensual knowledge, both socially and medically, about such things and their implications and effects. So I think that this is just an argument in which everybody needs to humble themselves.
Sure.
And it's not going in that direction, unfortunately. So yeah.
Do you think that there is a do you think that like I swear to God, I'm not baiting or trying to trap. If you don't want to have this conversation, because I'm just curious.
That's fine. I'm cancelled already, so let's
Oh,
go
okay.
with it.
Well, good.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think that like the phenomenon of having a male brain trapped in a female body, do you think that that's like a real thing? That that's a thing that can happen?
Like gender dysphoria.
Yeah, or like trans people, I guess. I'm trying to figure out like, do you think that like the phenomenon of trans people is like a thing that is rooted in the brain, or do you think it's just people that are confused in general?
I think it's a mix of both. I think with everything, it's sort of a mix of both. I think it's definitely something in the brain, and I do think that it's got social components that can't necessarily be explained. I think everything is sort of very situational, very contextually based, and within sort of one sphere of knowledge and self-awareness about oneself and one situation. I mean, for instance, when I lived in South Africa as a child, I never questioned that, I was going to just have sex with men. And then I moved to the UK and suddenly, boom, whole new world. So I think everything there is something to do with sort of context and the people that you're around, what you know. But yeah, I definitely think that there is a medical or biological or neurological aspect to being trans. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just lay out my thought process, and I guess you can kind of tackle it, I guess, in the way that you think. When it comes to stuff for minors. So personally, I think that trying to sort out gender identity and stuff as a minor is going to be very, very, very difficult, because there's a lot of other issues that can probably come up where you might think you have these issues relating to gender identity, and starting like medical transition or puberty blockers is feels pretty scary for somebody who's like 14 or 15, and to endorse that medically feels pretty scary, especially when there are probably some social components that are involved in this. I would agree with that. I guess the issue that I run into is that, like, I think that trans people are most likely a real thing. It seems to be. That's where I'm at right now. And I know that for trans women especially, transitioning post-puberty is very, 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 very difficult. Almost impossible depending on the type of puberty you have. So I guess my thought process is that, like, if there is a way to accurately identify somebody legitimately experiencing gender dysphoria as a minor, giving them the opportunity to kind of put a hold on that puberty until you either figure out what their issue is, they were just depressed, they just had social problems, or you figure out, okay, well, this person is actually trans, and then preventing that, like, disastrous puberty from happening to, especially for trans women, like going through male puberty if you feel like you're a woman. That's kind of why I lean in favor, I guess, of the puberty blockers at least being an option for minors. If you have compassion for that group of people, I don't know how. Yeah, I guess I have a difficult time saying, like, sorry, there's no medical treatment whatsoever available for you. You just kind of have to eat shit. That's like my issue, I guess, and that for the minor thing, why I feel like it has to be available to them. I don't know if you have a feeling on that.
I think it would just have to be a case by case situation. I don't think it can sort of be a blanket statement that all kids who identify as trans should have access. I think it should really be something that is determined by a group of professionals, people who are experienced by family, by the individual themselves. I don't. Yeah, it's difficult because I think that with this whole conversation and debate, there's sort of voices that are very loud and very prominent in all of this, who sort of have this thing underlying everything that they're saying of, I don't want to say entitlement exactly, but sort of this urgency, like sort of the time is now, and there's no sort of like just actually sitting back and just thinking about it objectively and realistically. I think that compromises have to be made in everything. I think if it comes to puberty blockers, for instance, I think the harm that it can cause to somebody who actually isn't trans in the long term could be quite substantial, and I don't know if it is worth it exactly, especially when it is just a matter of waiting until you're like 18.
Sure. Well, I mean, the
Yes.
problem with the waiting problem is that the puberty is like irreversible, right? Especially for
Yes, but
male
that doesn't
puberty.
mean that you can't identify as trans. That doesn't mean that you can't come
Yeah,
out.
I mean you can, but the issue is that like no, I don't think anybody wants to be trans. Well, people on the internet might want to be trans, but for real life trans people, I think they just want to be like if you're a trans woman, you just want to be like a woman, and then like having like the male puberty can be pretty disastrous in terms of standing in the way between you and your preferred gender expression. I understand. One thing that I think is difficult that I'm highly sympathetic towards, and I fight a lot on this, is I think there's a big worry that there's a lot of ideological capture for some of the institutions. And I feel like if it was publicly stated and publicly supported that the process for children getting access to drugs is that like you have a conversation with a child, you have a conversation with the parent, you have a conversation with a medical professional, and there's like some process by which we can reliably vet like who's actually trans, who's just having a phase or what's going on. That if these processes were talked about more, or if these processes were made more front and center and everybody kind of believed in them, I feel like it'd be easier to get people together on the trans minor thing. But I think a lot of the well is poisoned because of the online discourse, which is like relentless affirmation and relentless just like, everybody self-ID is true and everybody's trans if they say they're trans and blah, blah, blah. I think that when that environment is set up, I think people are really reticent to give children the ability to jump into that and start taking medication, I think.
Yeah, completely agree. Yes, I think so. Yeah. And I think this is just everything now, regrettably, which is very difficult to get beyond. And I don't think there's enough of a conversation happening between medical professionals and sort of the outside world and sort of the online sphere of things, which is, I think, socializing young people more so than traditional institutions, even more so than their own families and parents. So I think there's just a disconnect and also major distrust, which means that everybody online thinks that they know better than medical professionals. We don't know what medical professionals are saying or doing or what they think. And it's just a mess, I think.
Yeah. And then there's also like a lot of weird statements said by people. I think you have to have a lot of empathy when it comes to people's children. I'm pro-trans. I think I'm pro like minors having access to drugs for a transition or whatever if it's appropriate. But if I found out that my kid was in like one of these trans discords and there were people convincing me he was trans, I would delete all of it from his computer and he'd never talk to those people again. I would lose my mind because I would be so scared of like what the these people say to my kid, and I don't know like if he's thinking these things because he genuinely feels them or because weird people online are like trying to crack the egg or convince him. Like that would make me super worried as a parent. And then people like, and not to I'm trying to I don't ever want to do like as a parent, but like when I see people online saying things like, oh yeah, like I think that kids and teachers don't have any obligation to tell parents what's going on with their children. I understand that there are exceptional cases where that can be a thing, where like you've got an abusive household where like the kid is actually getting the out of him or whatever. Like I understand that the teacher and the children probably would need to communicate outside of what the parent is aware of. But like if I were to go to school and found out that my kid is using like a different set of pronouns and they're instead of Nathan it's like Nathaniel or whatever the Bellamy, I don't know, whatever female version of that name is. And like nobody has informed me of any of this, and then all of a sudden I get like a school counselor and a teacher coming up to me and it's like, listen, your son is identified as a woman for like 3 years and we're gonna begin transitioning. Like I think as a parent I would just lose my mind. I'm sorry, I'm pulling my kid out of the school and he's never going anywhere near any of you people again. You're insane. You wouldn't fill me in on any of that. I lose my mind. Yeah, there's just no way. And I'm already pro minor. Already pro drugs for trans minors. I'm already pro. Like there's a process by which he could go through, and it's like if he would inform me, we talk about it. Well, then okay, sure. At some point, yeah. That's what you feel like. I'm your parent and my goal is to provide for you. Like, let's do it. But people just so nonchalantly say, yeah, parents should just accept that like sometimes they're not going to be involved in like their children's sex, like the actual sex gender of their child. It's like that's wild. That is insane. You're not going to bring anybody. Yeah, you're not going to bring anybody to your side without you. You're out of your mind. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Completely antithetical to just human history, just instincts. It's wild. Yeah, completely agree.
Do you have like a political tribe that you fit in with online? Like even like a group of like center-leaning people or anything like that you like collab with or make content with or anything like that, or you're just kind of like stuck out there on your own?
Yeah, sort of just navigated on my own, really. I mean, I've spoken to sort of people who are within your orbit, I suppose, like Brittany, Simon,
Mm-hmm.
Not So Erudite, Stardust, Wick, TV. But yeah, typically just doing my own thing, really. Yeah, which has its pros and its cons, but
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless, interesting stuff.
Do you guys do you want to do more of this content in the future? Like, do you see like a future here, or do you think it's a like it's just too fraught with crazy shit, or what? Like, is this like a fun thing for you? I guess if you enjoyed it so far, now that you've had, I guess FD Signifier is this like your first big internet fight?
Yes, yes. Um, yeah, I do want to do this long term. It's definitely, it hasn't sort of destroyed my hope in humanity. I didn't have much in the first place, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would definitely like to do this. I think the only thing that really frustrates me about the FD thing is that I had this path, this financial like sort of path and objective for this year, and now it's just being completely decimated. And the idea of that was to be able to like move to my own place and
Mm-hmm.
sort of have my own, just not living with other people and just being able to really control when I make content, when I do what I want to do. And so yeah, I think once I get to that point, I'll be a lot more enthused and a lot more uh, autonomous over my content creation as opposed to now,
Mm-hmm.
where it feels quite very much sort of tiptoeing around people, around my situation. So yeah, I definitely this is what I want to do in the long term. Uh, but yeah, we'll see. Still early days, thankfully. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um. Well, damn. Was there anything particular you wanted to chat about? I don't know if you've seen anything of mine you either agree with or disagree with, or any questions you had about a particular thing, or.
Um, Not really. I mean, I saw that you had a debate with Meghan Murphy, I believe her name is
Mm-hmm.
the feminist, and she just vanished. What was that all about?
Is she one of your friends?
No, I don't know her aside
Oh.
from on Twitter, the Twitter rants every now and again.
She's just one of the. She's one of. There's a few of these feminists online that have built like a life around like hating porn and hating like the promiscuity of like the modern day woman or whatever. And I think she's like one of those types of people. She thinks that like all porn is exploitation, all porn is prostitution and trafficking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the her position on that is she's like built a life around that basically. So we went to have a conversation about it, but obviously she like didn't want to engage with anything I said. And then when I tried to push her to figure out like how she actually felt about anything, she just dipped. And then yeah. Yeah.
Do you think pro-porn feminists are maybe not responsible, but sort of a contributing factor to this idea of a right to sex and I guess inceldom, sort of as it's sort of the reaction against that, or maybe the red pill community as sort of a reaction against that.
A
That's
reaction
not
against
too
porn
broad a
or
question. Yeah.
this is okay. This is what I feel like. Okay. Let's say somebody comes into a hospital, all right?
Hmm.
And this person has been losing a little bit of weight. They've felt kind of sick for a while. And so you start going through their life and you find out that they are, let's say that they don't eat as much as they normally do. They've been exercising, but not too much. They've got a child that goes to school. Maybe they bring diseases home. And they also live in the basement of Chernobyl, okay? The nuclear meltdown power plant, all right? Before you
Hmm.
talk about any of the other peripheral things, you'd probably say you probably need to get out of the most radioactive environment on Earth because it's probably killing you. That's probably where everything's coming from. When I look at like incels and dating and relationships and blah, 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 I feel like everybody wants to shoehorn every single problem into their particular ideology. But in my opinion, there's this like huge thing, which is the internet, which is dramatically reshaped parts of our lives in such an unbelievably short time frame in ways that has never happened in all of human history. We've never been able to connect with as many people as quickly as we can. We've never been able to substitute real life interactions with online interactions. We've never been able to have a virtual pool of people to find to date. We've never been able to fuck our brains up scrolling TikTok and Instagram reels and Facebook posts like over and over and over and over again. Like, I think that this is dramatically changing all the parts of our lives, from how we raise our kids to 2-year-olds with iPads, to how we meet and talk to people, right? It was like, what, 50% of people found new partners through groups of friends, and now like the majority of people meet in online dating, versus like how we do school, how we socialize with players. Everything's changed by that. I think that we should afford a lot of attention to how the internet and technology has reshaped our day-to-day experience. And I don't think that I would be quick to be like, oh, it's just porn, that's changed everything. Or like, oh, it's just this has caused like incels. Like, I look at like the new ways that we communicate with each other as like a huge driver in that. Now, that being said, I think that it's worth it to have a conversation about porn and a conversation about dating apps and all these other whatever things that red pill people or feminists or whatever want to talk about. But sometimes I feel like people get a little bit lost in the sauce, and that they're really keen to blame one thing that just so happens to be perfectly talked about by their political ideology as like the source of all the societal ills revolving around the topic they're talking about, I guess. Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess when I think about something like porn, I think porn is really good for, I think today, probably most of the women that do it, and that they make a lot of money doing it, and it can be fun for some of them. I think it's really good for guys that enjoy watching it and like to jerk off, because it's fun to watch porn and jerk off. I think it's really bad probably for some subset of women that get into it too early, or some women that are exploited doing it. And I think it's probably really bad for men that get addicted to pornography or have pornography reshape some of their views of modern women. I guess like any tool, it can be used in some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad. But I think that people that want to either get rid of it or like mass proliferate it are kind of missing the point that like anything could be used for good or anything could be abused in a negative way.
Okay.
What do you think? Yeah, hit me. What do you disagree with? Go. Are you a big anti-porn person, or?
In my personal life, yes. But when it comes to actually not thinking about myself and just the world, it's inevitable. Porn's been with us for ever. I don't think there's any sort of regulation or any sufficient regulation of it. I think it's more so, it's not the porn that's the problem, in as much as sort of the people with, I guess, consumers with their own problems. I think, I don't think you can blame porn for the addiction, say. I do think it makes people, especially men, lazy, in the sense that it's a lot easier to just sit in front of your computer and jack off than it is to actually go out and interact with women and actually face rejection, trial and error, all of that. It's a safer option. And I think I agree with Jordan Peterson on his critique of porn in that sense, insofar as it being the easy way out of just everything. And I think this is just a feature of the internet, of modern society in general. Just everything is just made easier because we're just consumers, we're not people. And I think when we fall into that loop of living or performing as consumers before we actually are people, like human beings, I think it's just self-sabotage, and I think we just we reap what we sow in that sense. And so I think when it comes to, not being good at communicating, good at relationships, but you spend sort of all your time watching porn, I mean, what do you expect? So yeah. I think this is something where regulation really doesn't help at all. I think it is really something about improving on particular human skills, on social skills, on just being able to actually talk to each other honestly and openly, which we really failed at. And I think the internet has definitely contributed to our declining abilities to actually communicate effectively and well and honestly with each other. And I think that's the real issue, as opposed to porn itself. I think with everything about porn, one thing that, this is probably just from my personal experience, because my biological mother was a prostitute in South Africa. I think one thing that I just don't ever hear spoken about is the offspring or children of sex workers or porn stars or porn actors and actresses. I think there's something to that. I think often when we think about, or often when I hear people, especially pro porn individuals speaking about porn or OnlyFans or what have you, there isn't really ever any conversation around, their family, especially their dependent family. And I think that's something that's just lost in, like you said, sort of lost in the source of things, because everything is about sort of self-empowerment, the individual sex worker, and this idea that, what you do for yourself doesn't implicate or affect anybody else. And I think that is something generally that we've just lost in sort of connecting ourselves and our agency to other people in our lives and how it affects and implicates them. So yeah. Whole lot of thoughts, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I agree with what you're saying. I would be hesitant to group like prostitutes with like online porn models. I feel like there's differences in terms of like potential risk and everything involved in what you're doing. But yeah, I think there are arguments you can make even against legalized prostitution, but I don't know if they would carry over to like people that just film porn and everything.
Yeah, but I think if like a son is scrolling like Pornhub and then sees his mom there, like uploaded from 8 years ago, that can be quite
I would
an
agree.
experience.
Sure, so, yeah, for sure.
And I think that's going to happen at some point. I mean, inevitably. And I mean, what do you do about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's probably up to the individual content creators to decide. Like, you've got to figure out, like, what, like, there are risks to going into pornographic work. Although I will say that I don't know if it'll ever be normalized, like watching your mom or dad like get railed or rail somebody online. That's probably always going to be kind of weird. But I will say that the ramifications or the feelings about nudes have changed significantly over my lifetime. Like again, I'm 34. When I was in school, we didn't really send nudes at all because we didn't have cameras for it. But like the idea in college of like a nude getting leaked or somebody having like a nude picture of somebody, it was like an unbelievable huge deal. Like if somebody had nudes of a girl or somebody had like a picture of them like fucking their girlfriend or whatever, it was like everybody was like gathered around like, oh my god, this is the craziest thing in the world. I'm not saying today that nobody's going to care, obviously, if nudes get leaked to somebody, but I feel like that culture has gotten so much more normalized that it's almost, I don't know if I says, it's almost an expectation in a relationship that like people are going to be like trading nudes depending on how online you are. Like that just seems to be incredibly commonplace now, that maybe in the future.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, crazy, awesome.
A prude like me.
Yeah, well, sucks for you, but good for the rest of us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I imagine that cultural attitudes will shift and change a little bit going forward on that. But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with the weird points about like, I don't know if like men masturbating is keeping them from going out and pursuing women. I will say, as somebody that loves masturbating and somebody that loves women, there is a significant difference between the two. I don't think any amount of porn would be like, you know what, I was gonna talk to a nice lady today, or I was gonna date somebody, but man, I found the best porn video ever and I'm not gonna do it anymore. I feel like even if you took away all the porn, like people that don't talk to women probably still wouldn't talk to women. You know, men can always masturbate, do fantasies in their mind, or to target catalogs. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting point.
But I mean, it's sort of, if you have a choice to take a diet pill or go to the gym, I mean, most people are going to choose to take the diet pill.
Yeah, but I don't think there's like an easy substitution. Like a diet pill to lose weight or the gym to lose weight is the same thing. But I don't. It might be the case that there are some men that solely look at women as like sex machines. But I think that generally when people are lonely and out of relationships, one, that sex is better than just masturbating for most guys. And two, like you do want like a partner or somebody to be dating or to have those like romantic, lovey feelings with, I think.
Yeah, yes. No, I do agree with that. I think the more sort of niche, sort of heading into incel territory, young men, and I think just now also with, I mean, in the UK, like kids as young as 9 now are watching hardcore porn. So if that's sort of your introduction to intimacy and sex, then yeah, that's sort of what I'm a bit skeptical of.
Yeah, that's probably not the best thing. I would agree with you. Probably also not good to have like ultra violent media for children as well. Yeah, I don't know if that's, I don't know. I wonder if porn is unique there versus like people watching like really violent stuff as children growing up either, right? Like the old slasher films or like really bloody violent stuff. You typically don't want kids watching because you're worried about things. But I feel like there's a really broad problem in that the reason why porn becomes like this educational tool for children around sex is because we don't have any real like sexual education at all, like in society. Yeah. Like you learn from friends, you learn from porn, and you learn from your partner, and that's it. Like the most that we say socially is like, don't rape people, and the most you learn in school is like, here's how to put on a condom and here's what herpes looks like. Like that's basically it. Yeah, so as long as there's no like mainstream instruction or guidance, or there's no place that you can look at for any sort of like information, then yeah, people are just going to go to porn, which is probably not a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And adults don't want to admit that children are, curious about
sexual.
these things,
Yeah.
so.
I never understood that.
Yeah.
I was worried that would happen to me when I hit a certain age. I'm going to look at my kid like he's an alien. But like, it's so weird. You get these people that are like 35, 40 years old, and they're like, my 14-year-old? Oh no, they would never touch themselves, or they would never like try to have sex with a classmate. Not my angel. I was like, bro, 14? Are you fucking retarded? Like, how old were you when you first were interns? That's such a stupid. Yeah, I don't understand what happened. Exactly. It happened to boomer parents a lot, where these people, they hit a certain age and they're like, oh, my child won't be interested in sex until they're 25. And it's like, you're clueless, Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. But then also a lot of parents, literally, my parents have never talked to me about sex in my entire life. I'm 34. I still think if I were to ask my mom questions about like condoms, she'd blush. Like that's just like the way that a lot of, at least in America, a lot of parents wear. It's insane. So.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. I think just my upbringing and experiences have just caused me to be sexually stunted. So yeah. Oh well.
My fans were just like, both of you should talk, and then I reached out to you. I tried to get you on Pearl's show. That would have been fun. You should go on. You should try to get on Pearl's show. I bet she'd have you. You do YouTube stuff. I don't know how you feel about fighting in person.
No problem with it, really. Yeah. Yes. Where is she based? In London?
Is it Luton?
Oh, Luton.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I think. Wait, is that the area? Kelly would know. You went there. You tell me, Kelly. I think that's where it was.
Right. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind Pearl. I mean, very interesting case study of a human being. So yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should go collaborate. It's always a good time, and it'd probably be fun to branch out more. It'd be good for your content and everything too. So
yeah. Why not? How do I reach her?
I will. I think I can shoot you her information after the thing. I think that she communicates on Instagram. So yeah. Oh, do you have any strong feelings about Andrew Tate? Oh, you're a pro-tater, and you're embarrassed about it. Be honest. What's your opinion on him?
I mean, I think there's always, especially at this time in history, there's always going to be an Andrew Tate. Okay, so I don't think he's like profound in any way. I think he just tapped into a market, and he's got a narrative, and it worked for him. I think that his opinions and his perspective, especially on the decline in sort of a homogenous morality in Europe, is something that resonates with a lot of people. I think more so than what he has to even say about women, about dating, all of that. That's a whole different can of worms. So in terms of his specific sort of opinions and perspective, and just the blunt way which he just expresses sort of the discontentment and disenchantment with multiculturalism, with the importance of homogeneity within European, especially Central European societies. I think that really speaks to a lot of people who, in Europe at least, feel very disconnected from their communities, from their governments listening to them. And I think also from a sense of identity that goes beyond just being, capitalist. So yeah, I think he's got something interesting to say there. And he is confident in saying those things, whereas most people aren't.
Okay, here's a
And
question, okay? Why I feel like you're hiding your power level a little bit. Okay. So I understand what you're saying in terms of like he says these things. Here's the thing that drives me crazy about him, okay? He made all of his money exploiting men, exploiting women, and gambling, like running casinos. How does this guy become like the paragon of like this is our lost spiritual guidance that's going to tell us like what we're missing in our lives? When everything that he does, the way that he's made his money, everything is like the most materialistic, hyper-consumerist, hyper-capitalist, hyper-exploitative like model you could ever have. I don't understand that.
well, I think firstly, you don't have to live by example. I mean, that's just proof of like everyone. Like, I mean, it's sort of this idea that you sort of have to live by example now. You can just get around it by saying that, you know, you worked hard and therefore you deserve this and you deserve this life. And people eat that stuff up because it gives them hope that one day they'll be able to achieve what you've achieved or something like that. So I don't think that matters as much when it comes to sort of the things that he says. He doesn't need to live by example, and he's pretty blunt about that, which I think is something that people, especially now, like that kind of honesty, which just is not there, or at least doesn't seem to be there in the mainstream. And everything is ultimately a conspiracy, according to Andrew Tate and the likes. So yeah, I think his wealth just for his followers represents him going against the odds, and just fighting against everyone, just achieving what he had to achieve, not letting anything get in his way.
I mean, like, but he
It's a very
didn't.
romantic view, and I think people like that.
Sure, but he didn't do that, right? Like, it's. I guess the thing that bothers me the most about him is that, like, if he was like, I feel like athletes are way more inspiring. So somebody like Kobe Bryant, or somebody like LeBron James, or somebody like Michael Jordan. I feel like these
I don't
guys are more.
think so.
Okay, hold on. I disagree with you with every fiber of my being. Oh no, don't ever apologize. You're gonna scream over me. I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, no, hold on. Now we're gonna fight about this. Okay, for a lot of people, for a lot of at least basketball players, the ones I'm more intimately familiar with, for a lot of these guys, like their lives were very difficult. These people are waking up at 4:30 a.m. to practice Monday through Sunday every single day of the week. These guys are busting their ass. They're working super hard, and they are like the elitist of the elite in terms of athletes that are working like every day of their lives with these things. I feel like these are guys that are like, if they're gonna tell me something, if LeBron James is gonna tell me something about like, this is how I worked hard to become who I am, to do the things I do, and this is the advice that I would pass on to like the next generation, people's like, okay, like, I'll listen. Like, you've done it. Like, you've lived it. This is your life. Whether I disagree or not, I have to respect what you've done. But Andrew Tate, literally, his kickboxing stuff was the start and stop, I think, of his respectable money earning. But like past that, it was literally just scamming. It was running casinos with mob people. It was doing online cam work with, even if you don't think he exploited the women, which I think you probably do, because I think you're a little anti-porn,
He did.
right? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
They openly talk about how they would scam and exploit men out of their money, how they would trick men into giving money to these girls that they'd never see. They'd lie about ever visiting them. They'd lie and they'd get more and more money. I don't understand how you can look at somebody like Andrew Tate like, you know what? I can respect the grind, respect the hustle, when nothing he did was respectable at all. He was just a scammer. No?
Yes, but I think the thing is, when it comes to athletes, that's that's a skill, firstly, that the vast majority of the population don't have and will never have and will never be able to achieve. That was hard work, waking up at 4 a.m. and doing whatever they had to do for like the entirety of their youth. Right? That's a lot of work, a lot of effort to get to where they are. Andrew Tate, really and truly, in terms of, at least based on what his online course professes, I mean, it's as easy as just buying this course and then you can ultimately be like him in like a couple of years from your computer. So the appeal, I think, in terms of offering hope, and also this sort of deluded sense of hard work in insofar as sort of like doing the work by, you know, buying this course and like feeling like a bro. I think that's just a lot more appealing, especially now. I mean, now everything is about just like selling a product and selling an image and a story. And I think Andrew Tate has done very well in that regard, selling a very convincing, very modern story that he can make sound glamorous. He can make it sound not so lucrative. And I think because, as I said, everything today is a conspiracy. I mean, he can just say that, it's a conspiracy that, I'm a gangster. This isn't the case. The Romanian government is just against me and they've just, been um, just exploiting me, whatever. And people buy into it and believe it because it's easier. And I think now ease is, it sells,
I don't necessarily, I don't know if I necessarily disagree with what you're saying and that he's been very good at like wrapping up a package and selling it. But I feel like the only reason it's worked is because people are lying. Either he lies, other people lie for him, or people are lying to themselves. Like,
yeah, I think it's all of that.
Okay. Because insofar as that, I'd agree. I remember, do you know who Sneako is?
Yes, I do.
I got into that's another guy. If you ever wanted to talk to him, I could hook you up with him. That'd be a funny Rumble stream. Might be really extreme.
I would actually love to. I find him very interesting.
Sure. Okay. I could definitely set that up 100%. I'm sure he'd be interested too. But like when I talked to Sneako and I asked him about Andrew Tate, like you can see these guys, their like faces like contorting when they're like, oh, like Andrew Tate, well, he's awesome. He's a Muslim now. Like he's a really good guy. And it's like, didn't he make all of his money with casinos and like haram women? And they're like, yeah, but that was in the past and he didn't have any choice and he's not like that anymore. And and everybody makes mistakes. And it's like all of these like mental hurdles. Like they'll go through all of this shit. And then the next breath say like, a girl that's done OnlyFans for even 6 months is untouchable and she should die. It'll be like the most extreme thing in the world. It's like, how can you give so much forgiveness to Andrew Tate, who is like in my mind, a sex trafficker, but at the very least, the most haram individual in the world? How do you give him all this leeway? And then like for anybody else, it's like 1 or 2 mistakes is enough to like discount this person for their entire lives. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's so much cope when it comes to Tate's past that he's like essentially like a gangster and he's done like a bunch of like immoral, unethical things, which is fine. Like I think if Tate sold himself as like, listen, I'm basically a mobster, and if you want to know how I grind and hustle and society, then I'll tell you. And if people approach it like that and they talk about it like, I can respect that, right? A lot of people look at like gangsters like Al Capone or the mob or the mafia. There's movies about it. Scarface, you've got all these things. Fine, that's fine. But this rebranding of him, I grew up very Catholic until I was 16. I went to Catholic all-boys high school, Catholic school, so I have a religious background. When I see people defend him and he's like, oh, I'm Muslim now. And now like every Muslim on the internet is like simping for Tate in the weirdest like mix-up of conservatives aligning with Muslims I've ever seen in my life, and all these people are like, oh well, he's like our spiritual leader and our spiritual guider and blah blah blah. And it's like, bro, this is like the most hedonistic motherfucker in the world. Like the only reason half you people know who he is because the funny way he says Bugatti, right? And you guys are telling me that this is your new like religious imam like leading you into a new tomorrow. That drives me crazy. But sorry,
yeah, I think this is just typical. We lie to ourselves in order to pretend like we understand what is going on in our lives and in the world, and as if we have control over things. And I think the hardest thing is to firstly admit that you're wrong or that you've made a mistake, to apologize, and then to admit that your emotions and your emotionality around some random dude or whatever is purely that. It's not based on any like sound judgment, any reason. And yeah, reason and sound judgment they're boring. They really don't get you anywhere. They don't give you like this false sense of hope in someone or something. Yeah, I think that's all it really is in substance. I don't think it goes much deeper than that. Yeah, and I think Andrew Tate, I think he knows this, and he's just hit it lucky with all the lucrative criminal activity that he's done. And I don't think he'd be where he is now if he had done what you'd said about sort of being open about being a gangster, being an illegal activity over the world. I think, no, not at all.
Yeah, I think I don't necessarily disagree. But I hate him.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you religious at all, or?
No, not practicing, but I read my Bible because I like the stories, and I think there's a good moral message in there. And I do think that religion is a net good for the world. I think I'm very pro-religion in that way, even though in my personal life I'm not. But yeah. So I guess sort of inevitably like sort of Christian outlook on things, but yeah. Are you practicing or?
Fuck no, I'm ultra atheist and I hate the stories of the Bible. So, no, I'm just kidding. They've got like a good message, but it seems like a lot of Christians somehow miss the point sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yes. Yes.
Somebody said Destiny confront her about calling herself a femcel. Do you call yourself a femcel?
A femcel? No, not at all. I think, do we know these? Oh, I think this has to do. No, I'm not a femcel, but oh yes, about being involuntarily celibate. Basically, is that what they mean?
That might be one definition of it.
Oh yes, yes. Well, I've made a few videos about being involuntarily celibate, and that's again, this isn't as big as it was made out to be. I was basically trying to just make a point.
Do you claim that you're an incel?
That I'm involuntarily celibate?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I don't want to be celibate.
Wait,
but
why
I am.
can't, but you could. Okay, so finish what you were going to say. Sorry.
The point I was trying to make in so many words was that I think that it's important for. Please stop.
I'm sorry. I'm just. It's just one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. So I want to hear you. I'm curious if you can build the bridge out to make that make sense.
Because you have a particular definition of being an incel.
Yeah, well, celibacy means not having sex, and involuntary means that even if you wanted to have sex, you wouldn't be able to, which doesn't make sense for like 95% of women on the planet. So I'm just curious how, yeah.
No, I do disagree with that.
Okay.
Especially in this day and age, I do disagree with that. I think that I was trying to make the argument that, you know, incels actually have a lot more in common with normal people than they think. That in terms of this idea that incels are not able to get laid because they're just so undesirable and women are so picky and everything is not the case. Otherwise, you know, incels and femcels would have like hooked up by now. But instead, any woman who even tries to like put a toe into an incel forum is just kicked out. So I was trying to make that point more so that, you know, if we just talk to each other, like we get a lot further than where we're getting now.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for that, but I still think that for women, if all you're looking for is sex, basically any woman in any first world country can download Tinder and find a guy in like 45 minutes.
Yes, but this is such a reductive idea about what sex is, and this is the problem, because incels think that if they have sex with a woman, that's going to solve all their problems. You know, sex is actually not just this idea of just putting your penis into a vagina and then somehow your world is just restored. Like, it's a lot of communication, talking, understanding the body and the physicality of the specific individual.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with any of that. But you'd be a volcel. You're voluntarily celibate, right? Because if you wanted to just bang somebody, it would be easy to do that. But you're not.
No,
but you're
I want
voluntarily
to have sex with somebody, but I want to have actual sex with somebody, not this hypothetical.
Yeah, so you're looking for like a healthy relationship, and then for some sort of action to occur within like the confines of like a loving, romantic, healthy relationship, I imagine, right?
No, I don't even need that. I think I just want the sex to be good. You know, I want it to be, you know, a meaningful experience. I want it to be profound.
Well, yeah, so like within like the confines of like a loving, romantic, healthy relationship, no?
Yeah, if it ends up being like that, yeah.
Well,
sure.
okay, here's what I don't understand, because
I need like a.
Sure, but like you could download Tinder and you could have like 1,000 guys in your DMs tonight, right? You could probably find like good sex if you're just looking for good sex with one of them, I would imagine, right?
Good sex. I don't think so. No, I don't think good sex. I think just based on my particular situation, like I haven't had sex in years. My last sexual experience was incredibly traumatic and just has stunted me as a human being. I'd have to get to know the person, like actually know them, actually develop some kind of connection before getting to that point, most definitely. And Tinder's not for that. And
it can be.
Yeah. I'm also not. Yeah.
You can chat. You can have conversations with people on Tinder. You can find like a lot of relationships and stuff even start on Tinder and everything. No.
Not a real conversation. I'm sorry. I don't.
Yeah. I feel
I'm a
like
Luddite. Maybe it's just because I just came to the social media smartphone game a bit late. But in terms of the conversations that I've had on dating apps, um, it's really it's a market. That is what it is, and it's not something that I think sex should be in. Hence my sort of opinions on pornography. I think that sort of creating a market around our intimate relationships and our private lives is what really undermines just everything in the long run. And so I don't think starting off from that foundation for the majority of people is a good thing. I don't think it's good for us to have so much access to so much potential choice. I think at the end of the day, it's just a false perception of having a lot of people and a lot of potential. It's like having 20 brands of the same ketchup. It's like, what do you choose? It just becomes more overwhelming than anything else. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
don't
I
think it's a good
understand
thing.
what you're saying, but I feel like when I look at things like Tinder dating apps, like aren't these just formalizing markets that have kind of existed historically already? So like
Oh
for instance,
no.
like when you go to like school or when you go to like work, like everybody's kind of like talking here and fucking here, and there's kind of like this is like the cool Chad guy, and this is like the hot Stacy person, and this is the shy. Like, don't these kind of things like exist kind of naturally anyway? I mean, like, do you think that Tinder makes it that much more meaningfully different, or?
Oh yes, definitely. Because this isn't just your school. This is every single school within your region with even more people, even
Yeah.
more possibility. And this is also people's profiles. You're effectively determining if you want to have sex with somebody's photograph and a very short bio. It's basically somebody trying to sell a product to you. It's not a real person. It's in no way conducive to, I think, creating the healthy relationships that people need, which are very specific to individuals and I think very idiosyncratic in that way. You sort of can't replicate them in the way that online dating tries to, in presenting sort of woman as X, Y, and Z and men as X, Y, and Z. And ultimately, I think we can just see this just in that typical statistic of what's it that all the Red Pill people quote about 80% of people on dating apps are men, and that women are also only interested in only 20% of the 80% of men.
Well, I mean, that's on dating apps. It's like 5-to-1 men to women, so that puts you in a good position. You're ready to rock. You got the pick
I
of the
don't think
litter.
so, actually. I think it's what I said about this sort of having so much choice, unrealistic choice. Nowhere in my real life would I have that kind of choice, whereas on social media or on dating apps, I would.
I think
And so
I think you have
ultimately,
the
I'm going to be more
choice.
picky.
I think you have
I'm
the
going to be
choice in real life
horrible.
too, though.
I'm going to
No.
be dehumanizing of the men, which is not good.
Well, like, hold
I
on. You
really
said you
don't think
worked.
it's good.
You said you worked in a supermarket before, right?
Yeah,
You probably could have had sex with any of your coworkers if you asked them to. I would imagine.
me.
Oh man, hold. I'm getting black. You're blackpilling me right now. Oh my
No,
goodness. Yes, you. Yeah, of course. Do you not realize that?
no, I couldn't. I mean, I
Well,
was
no, I don't
interested in
mean.
some of
Hold
my
on. Wait. I'm
coworkers.
sorry. I don't mean like you
No.
would be necessarily interested in it, like you would have the romantic connection. But if you propositioned any of your coworkers for sex, like 99% of them would say yes. Okay. Wow. We live in. One of us is living in reality, and the other one is on the moon right now. I'm not sure.
I'm not on the moon.
I feel pretty grounded on planet Earth right now.
Do I
If I was in
actually?
London, we should do.
I really,
Hold on, wait.
don't.
I'm just curious. Or sorry, no, go say your thing. Don't let me cut you off. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Hold on. Well, I'm not gonna talk. If you were on the
I
street,
don't even know how to respond
yeah.
to
If
this,
you, I'm just
actually.
curious. If you were on the street and you're standing there and you're polling guys and you're like, and you just ask a stranger, would you have sex with me? What percentage of men walking up and down the street, if you asked them that question, what percentage of them do you think would say yes?
Well, I do need to consider things like race in my situation.
Wait, no. I mean,
That
not for you
already.
willing to them, but just them. If you just ask like a stranger on the street, men are walking by of all creeds, all races, all religions, all whatever, and you ask them like, "Hey, just curious, if I said like, do you want to go to a hotel room and bang? Would you be interested?" What percentage, roughly speaking, of men do you think would say yes? I'm just curious. In your mind, I have a number in my mind. I'm curious what you think that number would be.
40%.
Jesus. Wow. Okay. In my head, that number is
I
closer
think
to
I have more faith in men than you do.
well, that number is actually like 90 to 95%. 40%.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez. Interesting.
Don't you think that men can be picky? I think men are very picky.
Absolutely not. Even the
What?
most giga chatted guy that you've ever seen has women that he's too embarrassed to tell his friends about. Like everybody, yeah. When it comes to sexual selection for men, go talk to all the red pillars or any of the self-proclaimed dating, whatever. Yeah, like men's standards for sex are way different than their standards for dating. I think that for women, they tend to align a bit more closely. I think the question that I ask women is like, of the last like 5 men you how many of them would you be willing to date? I feel like most women would say like probably 3 to 5. But if you were to ask men of the last 10 women how many would you be willing to date? Their number would be like 1 to 3.
Okay. I can see defeat. I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that. I think I personally have a very different perspective of sex. I think for me, sex is far more profound an experience and an encounter.
Which is fair, which is
okay,
fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
okay,
That's well, and even
okay.
if I'm being sexist, that's like the woman answer, which is fine. That's the answer that I think a lot of women would give is like because, but the reason why I think, God, fuck, I'm like being red pill right now. The reason why women are more selective though is because I think men are the ones that tend to chase the sexual experience more, and women are the ones that tend to be a little bit more guarded about it because they can get it whenever they want, right? Like I think most women, like. If you wanted, this is why when you say incel, it's kind of a weird thing because if you wanted to have sex tonight, you could hop on any dating app and you could get like 20 dudes tonight, and you could get like free dinners and $20 from everybody. Like you get gifts while doing it. It would be that easy.
Yeah.
But for guys, it's not the case. It would be challenging, even for like really chatted out dudes. If you're just hopping on a dating app, you'd still have to put in a bit of work to find that experience. But yeah,
I would push back a bit on that because I think with pornography, that's sort of taken women out of the equation in terms of that chase.
That's so not true. It is okay. Now I understand where you're coming from this. So now I'm gonna push you harder back to this. Absolutely not. Pornography is never a substitution for sex for men. I don't think. You might jerk off because of whatever, but a lot of like it is. I don't think it's a substitution at all. Sorry, God.
You don't think that some men think that, however, even though it isn't?
Absolutely not.
Just based on the proliferation of porn, just based on the like consumption of porn, just based on the number of incels that we allegedly have in modern societies, you don't think that this is now seen as an alternative, like sex dolls, for instance?
Absolutely not. If anything, I think it makes you want the sex even more. I don't think that anybody's like,
Really?
oh, yeah. Like, you're like, oh, God, like, I really wanted to bang tonight, but thank God I've got my favorite porn video, and this will, like, last me for a week, so I won't think about girls. I think, if anything, the porn makes you want it, like, even more. I don't think it's a substitute ever. Not even close. No.
Okay, so then in that way, is sex then more profound for men?
Yeah, I think they enjoy the experience more than pornography. Yeah.
But differently to how women find it profound.
I think broadly speaking, men and women engage in sex a bit differently. So no, I think they would find it profound in different ways.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, 1 second. How are people saying Destiny's wrong? LOL. I don't know why I'm muting to talk. Hold on. YouTube chat, but I'll just say it to you. I don't care. People are asking, how are people saying Destiny is wrong on this? LOL. It's because I think that when people think about porn being a substitution for sex, there is no way that you can have an opinion grounded in reality where you believe that. But porn being a substitution for sex is probably part of a bigger moral package that's been sold to you by somebody like Jordan Peterson or a red pillar, where they're telling you that porn is destructive against society for these different reasons. And part of that destructiveness is that it's poisoning men's ability to have a desire to navigate the world in a more masculine or aggressive manner. So when somebody thinks like, oh, porn is a substitution for sex, I think most people, I don't think they've thought through that opinion, because if you ask any male in real life, or if you actually look at behavior, that is just absolutely not true. But I think that it's part of a broader package of how people view the world. So they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But like, given the opportunity for a guy, like if he had the option to go and f a girl, and either was like a realistic proposition, or if he had the ability to masturbate to porn, he's not jerking off to porn. Like that's never happening. Like Abba in chat right now is disagreeing with me, and I didn't know this when I asked
Abba
Abba
from Abba and Preach?
Yeah, he's a loser, okay? But Abba in chat,
not.
he
He's
absolutely is.
absolutely right
He's
on
like
this.
FD
Thank you,
Signifier,
Abba.
but even more of a loser than him, okay? So Abba in chat is saying that Destiny's completely wrong, but I actually specifically asked Abba, and this was funny to me, okay? I specifically asked you, Abba, on stream one day. I said, would you rather have the worst sex of your life or just say and masturbate? And for me personally, because I have access to sex, I would just masturbate. I don't give a if I think it's gonna be a bad sexual hookup, I'll just fucking jerk off and go, not girl, she can go home, okay? But you told me, you were like, nah, bro. You said, guys like sex so much, even if it's a bad sexual experience, the guy would rather have sex with the girl than just go home and jerk off. You said that. I got you saying that in 4K on stream, motherfucker. So don't contradict yourself now. Okay, sorry, I'm back. But yeah, I don't think that, because I wonder how we would pull around this or what we would find, but like, given the opportunity, do you think that if you had the opportunity to go out and chase a girl, do you really think any amount of porn could like seduce a guy away from going after like a girl that he knew he could realistically?
Yes, definitely. It's so much easier. You just turn on your screen and it's right there. There's no challenges. There's no having to get ready, to get dressed, to go out. There's no insecurity involved. There's no judgment. And I think that's what we all fear, rejection and judgment. And I think now more so than ever, especially with young men in modern societies and with modern women, or at least the stereotype of, you know, the picky, entitled modern woman, I think it's definitely a very convenient substitute. And I think a lot of people, even if it isn't realistically a substitute or a sufficient substitute in the long term, I think now for a lot of young people and a lot of, I guess, men who are sort of disenchanted with their relationships or what have you, they can convince themselves that it is a sufficient enough substitute. It's easy, it's quick, you can get the job done, you can just get that release that you need. And so I do think so.
So
yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, that going out and talking to somebody doing all that could be shitty. That, like, I agree with that. But whether you have porn or not, I don't think changes that. Like, if you're like a really shy guy and you don't want to go out and put the work into getting a woman, like, you won't do that. It's not like if you take porn from those people, they're all of a sudden like, well, can't look at porn. I'm about to go hit the gym. I'm about to go out and confront my fears. I don't think that ever happens. I think if you take the porn, I think their situation is the exact same. Now they're reading erotica, or they're just masturbating in their bedroom, or they just don't masturbate at all and they queue up an extra game of League of Legends. I don't think that porn like takes away your ability to go and chase. I think that that just happens to be one of the things people do if they stay home. And then also when we say like picky, entitled modern women, aren't modern women like more than like women ever have in like history? I feel like the women today, especially with like birth control and shit, wouldn't they be less picky or less entitled when it comes to just sex?
And that's
than they
what
were
I said about
historically?
the stereotype. I think a lot of the people who I'm talking about, who sort of who I would associate as being sort of seeing pornography as a substitute for actually going out there and sort of facing the beast. I think they consume the kind of red pill content which portrays women as this sort of caricature. And I think that just feeds into the fear or the aggression or the disillusionment that I think modern men and modern women are increasingly sort of finding themselves polarized from each other and understanding each other, empathizing with each other, and communicating with each other. I think all of this is just about basic communication, which we really just have lost. And I think the internet just contributes to that. And I think porn contributes to that, especially, I'd say with the average woman in terms of their introduction to sex. I think it was a pretty unpleasant experience because I mean mine was basically being treated like a sex doll, and then I saw porn. I was like, oh, okay, so this is why that happened. And so I think it is a contributing factor to that. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Gotcha. Probably disagree a lot on this point, but I think we've kind of gotten to our disagreements. Let's see. Is there anything else you want to chat about? Anything else that's tickling your brain right now?
I'm not sure. It's a bit difficult because, yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't ever had a debate with anyone before, so.
You didn't have an argument with FD Signifier, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a debate because when I sort of tried to, he'd say, well, I can't speak about this because I'm not trans, and so it's not for me to speak about this issue. So yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we're sort of blocked there, but oh well.
Okay.
But yes, I'm not sure. I didn't know what you wanted to talk about exactly, so I didn't come prepared with anything. I was just
Yeah, that's fine. My
ready
friends
to
just
be
wanted us to
fed to
talk.
the wolves.
So we've broke the ice. If anything in the future comes up that you agree or disagree with me on, or if you want to hop on a panel, or anything else, yeah. Oh, I can get you connected to Sneako and Pearl. I'll write that so that I don't forget, and then you can see what you can do with those guys too. Yeah, you could probably chat with Abba too. I'm sure he'd love to chat too if you wanted to. So.
Oh, I'd love to. I reference him in almost all my videos. Yeah, so it'll be nice to put a face to the all.
Yeah, that'd
But
be
yeah.
really good. He's got a really fragile ego, so having people that like are, you know, super simps for him makes him feel really good about himself. Because yeah, that's definitely something he needs to work on. So that's good. Yeah.
Right. Although he was brilliant in your, I think you had a conversation about the left a few days ago and about the demonization of autonomy, which I found very, yeah, he did very well on that. I think what's it that you say in your community? You took the L.
Well, have you ever seen do you know the show Nathan For You?
Nathan For You.
Yeah, or like The Rehearsal?
No.
Oh, me and Abba have been working out like different conversations privately where he practices like a lot of lines that I basically write for him so that when we have our conversations, he doesn't take an L on every single one.
Nice.
And that was the one that
Right.
we've been working on probably the most. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad.
Right.
Really, when you compliment him, you're actually complimenting me. So I appreciate that. Yeah. But I'll make sure to
wow.
let him know that he
Wow.
gave a really convincing performance. So he might even start
Okay.
listening. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to shout out where can people find you? I guess lead socials. Yeah.
Oh, just on YouTube, Kidology, and also on Twitter or Instagram, also Kidology Co. But yeah, just YouTube is perfect. So thank you. It's great talking to you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'll link your stuff, and yeah, thanks a lot. I'm sure we'll meet again in the future. Good, don't get too canceled, okay?
Okay, I won't.
right.
I won't.
See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Who's that guy? I feel like there are certain topics that come up, and the only possible way you guys can think this thing is if you've been sold some shit on some other ideology and you've never thought. The idea that men would use porn as a substitution for sex. No shot. That it feels like a substitution. I can understand like staying home and jerking off because you don't want to go out or whatever. But like, if you took the porn away, I don't think all these guys were like, okay, I'm gonna go out and now I'm gonna try to hit on these women now that I don't have porn anymore because I can't find release any other way. Maybe if we were talking like some like fucking porn world, maybe we've got like men who are like their hands are, or they all got what do you call those cock cage things? Chastity cages, where every man is a chastity cage, and the only way you can ever get off is like with a woman. Maybe in that world, now I agree with you. Where like, okay, now men are desperately trying to go out and get women and shit because they're all locked in chastity cages, and women are the only one in societies with the keys. Maybe then, okay, sure. But like, I don't know, man. Also, the idea that like porn is a substitution for like a real life, like warm person to like be next to and love and everything. I don't know. Maybe I'm just gay. I don't know. Whatever. You're just wrong about this, Destiny. Porn for a lot of guys literally zaps your motivation to seek women. I feel like that can't be true. Maybe I need to find these guys. I don't know. We talked to a guy and he's like, you're like, damn, bro, you've been single since you're like, you've been single for 4 years? And he's like, yeah, I have been single for 4 years. Problem? And you're like, well, aren't you kind of like lonely or whatever? Lonely? Last night I had Jenna Jameson. The day before I had Mia Malkova. And tonight I got a threesome planned with 2 other hot porn babes. Why the fuck would I be lonely? And it's like, what? Do you guys think this happened? No shot. No shot does this happen. I don't believe you. No shot. Wait. Laba wants to call. Let me go grab a Red Bull and shit real quick. Hold on, give me a sec. I'll hop in my room, okay?